Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. Heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. While fields and flood, rocks, hills and plain, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. Heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love.
Yeah, this is Reverend John Hughes, known to most of you as Pastor John. Come to tell you a story that I've used for many years about Christmas. There was a young boy who was standing in the middle of the street in a big city, and he was looking around to see if anyone was noticing him. And looking left and right and behind him, he noticed no one was even giving him a glance. So he knew it was safe to reach down and pick up the treasure that was under his foot. A single coin. And nobody had seen it in the street, and so he placed his foot over it. And suddenly, when he had that coin, he knew that dreams could come true. He might go to the baker and get a sweet or a treat. He might go and buy food that he would normally not be able to eat. He might go to the toy maker and get something that he could enjoy for weeks and months to come. But he knew that in his hand he had a treasure that was everything that he hoped for. And so he put his fist in his pocket to make sure he wouldn't lose it, and he walked on. But suddenly he came to the square in the city, and there was a great crowd that packed the square up the steps and into the cathedral. And he said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Haven't you heard? If whoever makes the perfect gift to the Christ child tonight and places it on the altar, the bells will ring." So the little boy thought, "Jeepers, maybe the Christ child would like a coin." Because after all, it's a wonderful discovery, a treasure beyond his imagination. So he worked himself through the crowd, and to a side aisle, and through the cathedral, and up where he could look at the altar from its side. And suddenly that's when he saw it. Heaped on the altar were tapestries and silks, jewelry made from diamonds and rubies and precious stones. He could see things that he had never imagined, gold cups and silver cups, and things that were just beyond his imagination. And then he suddenly realized he was offering a simple coin. He was almost ashamed that he brought this common coin to the cathedral thinking it was the perfect gift for the Christ child. But he watched, he was determined because he was there to make his gift. So he waited until no one was looking, walked up to the altar, and there quickly placed the coin on the altar and disappeared. And suddenly, all the bells began to chime and ring. And suddenly everybody stopped and said, what was the gift and who made it? And suddenly somebody said, it was him. It was the young boy. And he stopped dead in his tracks. And suddenly they went up and saw it was a common coin and said, we don't understand. And suddenly the chief priests came out. And everybody suddenly hushed and bowed and got down on their knees and said, this boy gave all that he had. He sacrificed his hopes and his dreams to make the Christ child blessed. This is the greatest gift of all. Now, I've given that story many times to explain to people what the spirit of Christmas and a Christmas gift is all about. But after this year of COVID, I've begun to look at this story differently. The young boy adds his coin to a heap of treasures on the altar. This year there was a doctor on a ward, and suddenly his hospital was hit by the COVID infection. And suddenly an 8-hour shift turned into a 10, 12, 18, 20-hour shift. There were ventilators moving. Did they have enough masks? Did they have the protective equipment? Were they sterilized? And there was much doubt on that. There was much death on that ward. And suddenly the administrator came and said, Bill, go home. And Bill went and showered and changed and sterilized and dressed and got into his car. And the only word that could define how Bill felt was bone tired. But it was not only physical exhaustion. He was emotionally spent. He had seen more death in that 20 hours than he would see in a year or two in his regular practice. And he realized he was overwhelmed. And then as he was driving home, the doubts began to hit him. Could he bring the virus into his home, to his wife and to his children? Was it safe? Was he jeopardizing those that he loved? And he turned on the street and then into his driveway, and that's when he saw it. His mailbox. It was covered with hearts that had been carefully cut out with scissors by a young neighbor girl who was 9 years old. She decorated them beautifully with glitter. She had ribbons with notes of gratitude and thanks, and that he was her hero. And suddenly Bill felt wonderful. Did you hear that story? Did you see it on the news? And did you think, that's exactly how I felt? Yes, I wish I could have expressed what that young girl did. And her humble gift was the gift on top of all the gifts that Bill had given that day. He had sacrificed those hours, that time to be with his patient, to give them the expertise and the best chance at life that they had. He had mourned and he had cried, but then somebody had touched him with joy and compassion. When you saw those hearts, did your heart brim over with appreciation and inspiration? Did your soul suddenly become flooded with gratitude? In New York City, Carnegie Hall closed down, and an older man who played in the orchestra, his only income was from the orchestra, and he went home to bury himself in his third-story apartment because he dared not go out because of his age and some underlying conditions. And then he heard the noise in the street below. And he went and he opened his window in his third-story apartment and looked out, and he could see the workers who were going to put the paper towels and the toilet paper on the shelves and the sterile wipes to get the groceries ready for those that needed it, that would man the cash registers, the women and men that made the whole thing work. And suddenly he went back and he got his trumpet, and out the window he played, "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee." And suddenly people stopped. Neighbors came out of their apartments and saw what was happening and began to applaud those workers who were both going to the shift and those that were coming away from the shift. Did you see that story? Did you hear about it and did you feel, yes, that's the way I felt? I wish I could have offered the gift that that man offered. That his gift was the crowning piece, as humble as it was, that said all of those gifts had meaning and pressure. Now, what we celebrate on Christmas Day is that there is light in the darkness, that there's a baby's cry that comes from a stable, and from that feed box we call a manger, and that there's always hope and joy, and always compassion and appreciation. And any day that we offer a gift of our thanks and abundant gratitude, it is Christmas, not just today, but every day. The bells continue to ring. God bless you, and have a Merry Christmas.
I've heard about this baby boy who's come to earth to bring us joy, and I just want to sing this song to you. Emmanuel has come to earth, the Virgin Mary given birth into a world that sings a hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. A couple came to Bethlehem, expecting child. They searched the inn to find a place, for you were coming soon. There was no room for them to stay, so in a manger filled with hay, God's only Son was born. Oh, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Their flocks by night to see this baby wrapped in light. A host of angels led them all to you. It was just as the angel said, you'll find him in a manger bed, Emmanuel and Savior. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. A star shone bright up in the east. To Bethlehem the wise men three came many miles and journeyed long for you. And to the place at which you were, their frankincense and golden myrrh they gave to you and cried out, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I know you came to rescue me. This baby boy would grow to be a man and one day die for me and you. My sins would drive the nails in you. That rugged cross was my cross too. Still every breath you drew was hallelujah, hallelujah,
soon.